Huh. Exploring self-awareness through shared experience. Is that the Driftwood Podcast?
That is what we're here to find out. And Yul Vasquez brings us this. The universe will put signposts in your life. You can either ignore them or embrace them. You can choose and wish for all the things you want. But the things that are coming to you, you will never be able to hide from. And the things that you want so bad that are not supposed to be for you for whatever reason, they'll never come to you.
I'm Daniel the Wizard.
And Foxy as usual, howdy y'all.
It's the Driftwood Podcast. Yeah, Driftwood Podcast. So we're talking about advice today.
Sounds like it.
Advice. Sound advice. I think episode title, Sound Advice. TDP number 49.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so sound advice. So we're going to be talking a little bit about advice,
Right.
as I'd said. But we're going to be giving the tits on advice.
Tits.
Thoughts, ideas, theories, and stories on advice. Now, we're just going to talk about what advice means to us and how to give it, how to receive it. Wrote down a couple of questions here that we hope to eventually get to answer.
Right.
But, you know, the wind was blowing we're recording outside today, so the wind was blowing my stuff all over the way, so trying to get myself better organized.
You know what I just realized?
What's that?
We say that quite often.
We're recording outside?
No.
We make a lot of excuses.
No, we say we're recording outside today as if it's really unusual, but we say it so often it's not really that unusual anymore.
We mostly record outside.
Well, yeah.
We mostly record.
Mostly it's outside or outside-ish.
Well, we're going to talk about ownership of advice. We're going to talk about a little bit about ownership of advice, like how you give advice, receiving advice, and what do we consider good advice to be?
What makes good advice?
What makes advice good? What are the things that we... So a little bit about what we do. We don't actually really have a script. We have a plot point. We talk about these couple things that we brought up, and we just have a discussion about it. We talk about it. We try to make it a relevant conversation without being so stiff about it. Because, I mean, I don't know how many people sit and think about these things, but they need to, I think.
Yep.
And I think that that's what we're here to provide. So we're going to sit down, we're going to talk about these things, and we're going to get on our merry way with it. So,
yep. And if you know anyone who is a little too stiff about it, give them the D.
Yeah, give them the D, because the D is the tits. Give them the D because it's the tits.
It sure is.
Give them the D. Give them Driftwood because it's the tits. Yeah, thoughts, ideas, theories, and stories. Yeah, we're working on that. I think that I like that, man.
I think they're starting to get the drift.
Yeah, they're starting to get the drift. Man, this stuff's starting to come together a little bit. It almost seems like on purpose.
Almost like it was meant to be.
Yeah, so one of the things that I think about with advice, with coming up to this stuff, man, it's like when we started this podcast, like...
We got some advice, didn't we? Various people gave us various advice.
Yeah, listen, a lot of those people don't listen anymore. They listen to like the first couple episodes. They're like, hey, do this, hey, do that. And they're like, oh, cool. And then bye-bye. You know, which is cool. That's fine. I actually learned a lot from those things. But whenever I joined a bunch of these like podcast groups, you know, just I wasn't really, honestly, I didn't know what questions to ask. That was the biggest problem. Did
you get advice? Good advice?
Well, I don't know. I don't know. Let's see. How far are we into this podcast? 49. This is episode 49,
yes,
right?
Sir. Yes, sir.
I would say that we've been successful at continuing to do it.
Sure.
So I would say that the advice that I had received to continue no matter what in one of those groups, I think that was relevant advice. And that is advice that I've given to people in the same... I mean, it's a broad advice, but...
Don't give up.
Listen, if you care about it, care about it. Yep. You know, don't stop caring about it. Just try harder. Or maybe not harder.
Don't stop.
Maybe not try harder. Try a different way. That's the thing in choosing words. Like when you give advice, you have to choose the words to use, man. That's almost like, I don't know. You have to think about like what's the best way. Man, there's so many things about advice that I think about with giving advice. So what's something that whenever somebody comes to you for advice, David, how do you approach that? If somebody says, "Hey, man, I got a problem."
Well, what was I saying earlier? So, so in general...
What if I were to say, David, hey, I'm having ED issues. What advice would you give me?
Well, thanks for making it such an interesting subject. But what I probably would start with is just find out a little bit more background as to what
Hang
the
on.
actual situation
Men's
is.
health, yeah, guys. If you need to talk about that stuff, you need to talk about that stuff. Tell somebody. That's a joke, but yeah, you got to tell somebody. Moving on.
Yeah. So
Sorry,
I obviously try.
I'm not trying to turn this into a men's health episode, but
We can if you like.
I think if it's relevant, it's relevant.
If it's sound advice, we can. So yeah, get a little bit more background. I mean, one of the things that I dislike when someone tries to give me advice is either unwarranted advice. Someone says, "Hey, let me tell you," and I was like, "Who? Wait a minute. Who are you? What do you want?"
Yeah, what do you want?
You know, what are you coming giving me advice for? I did not ask you for advice. You're not in a position as to someone to give me advice. You know, that's to be in a position to give advice. I think that has to be earned first of all. You have to earn that title, that ethos.
Yeah.
You know? So that's the first thing. So, and then the relevance of the advice. Is it warranted? Then the relevance. Is that something that's actually useful to me? And that only way it would be is if they knew what I was doing or what I was going through. And if they don't, they would have to find out what that is. And that's what I do. If someone asks me, I'm not just going to give a snap reaction, oh, I think this. I would first find out, try and get to maybe a little bit more the root of what the issue might be. And then think about the advice part.
Why do people give advice though? Like, what's the significance of advice?
I think with giving advice, you're trying to make something easier for someone, or perhaps not easier, but trying to help them avoid a mistake or a catastrophe or an erroneous way of doing something.
Well, I would give advice so that way people would come back to me for more advice, so that they would keep showing, so that way, like, I was valuable to them.
You're going to be an advice hawker.
What? So I seek out places to give my advice. The advice hawk.
Hey, kid, you want to see some advice?
Here, come over here, kid. Hey, come over here.
Yeah.
Well, now listen. When I was younger, and actually not when I was younger, yesterday, essentially I was younger. Okay, so
yesterday, yes,
I would look out ways to give advice, like look out for places that I could give advice. But what advice do I have to give anyone about shit? Dude, I'm an example of failure. So all I could do is tell people, hey man, don't do it this way. This is how it turns out.
Well, yeah, exactly. That's giving someone the material that forms advice without giving the actual advice.
Yeah, but here's the problem. If you don't know, like, if you're not honest about the things about you that give you the relevance to give that advice.
Of course.
Okay, cool. I'm successful. I make a lot of money. But why does that mean you have to tell me how to have a relationship? You know what I'm saying? That doesn't mean that you've had a successful relationship. That doesn't absolve you of all of...
Relationship with money.
Yeah,
had a successful relationship with money.
Yeah, so, like, what is the advice that you would give on that? Like, you have to have something that makes you relevant to that situation to where your advice would work.
Yes.
You know, so yeah. So yeah, that's why one of the reasons why I give advice, like I said, was to get people to come back to me to serve a purpose for them.
Mm-hmm.
I like giving good advice, man. I like being able to help somebody with a problem.
So how do you assess then that it was good advice given?
Honestly, I think for a long time I didn't know. Like, I think that, I guess if they kept coming back to me.
Right.
But I realized that sometimes I would tell people what they wanted to hear just so they would come back. You know what I'm saying? That's not good advice. That's feeding the demon, man. But sometimes you got to get them comfortable. So sometimes maybe you have to stroke the ego a little bit. You got to let them know daddy's here for you. You know what I'm saying?
Dang.
Like, I mean, but it's a balance thing. How do you know if it's good advice? Shit, I don't know if it ever is good advice. Honestly, I don't think that I have an answer for that now that I think about it. What do you consider good advice? Maybe by the end of this episode I will. So that's what we're here to have this conversation about.
Well, as I said, it has to be relevant. It has to be grounded in the actual situation.
So if you were to have just random advice to float off, what would any stranger, what's a piece of advice you can give any stranger?
Any stranger? Don't shit on your front doorstep. Pretty solid.
don't shit where you eat. That's a good one too.
That's also nice.
I think that's universal across the globe. Maybe there's a couple tribes maybe, but I think it's pretty universal.
Don't piss in the wind.
Don't piss against the wind.
Against the wind.
You can piss into the wind, just not against it.
Sure.
Because as long as you got like a perpendicular shot, you know what I'm saying?
Well, then we're going to get deep and philosophical here and say, go with the flow.
Go with the flow, yeah.
That's good advice.
Oh, we were actually talking about the thing about, we were watching a video earlier about character representation.
I'm sorry if anybody needs to go to the restroom right now.
Yeah, we were watching a video about character representation.
Oh, yes.
And basically this video that we were watching, dude, it basically described our whole show, our whole gamut, the whole thing.
Right.
The whole damn thing.
All the aspects of it. That's
yeah.
funny.
So, but if you thinking about that, I'm not going to tell them what it is.
It was a trope talk.
Yeah. So if you were to take advice from that, what would you? So if you were to, what we watched, right? Not really the particulars of it, but what would be advice that you would take from that? Like that you would give yourself or somebody else that may be feeling a certain kind of way about those things.
About those things.
Give me advice, man, because I don't know how to feel about that. How should I take those things?
Wait, are we talking about what she was speaking about? The presenter was speaking about, or the
I guess I'm making it too complicated.
Yeah.
I'm definitely making it too complicated.
Form your question. Shape your question.
Disregard. Okay, so the video that we were watching was basically describing a character trait. What was the character trait? Crouching moron, hidden badass.
Yes.
Okay, I think if you search that, you'll find it.
Yes.
So go to YouTube. Crouching moron, hidden badass. Basically, the character representation of the ditzy, comical, but shows up to be a badass when necessary. So basically, there's a variance between those two things, but essentially, that's what the video was describing. And everything that she said, I felt like she was yelling at me.
Yes.
It wasn't even like, it was very positive. It was very like, but it was just character representations of stories, not people. It wasn't talking about people, but I took it personal. I felt like she was,
absolutely.
So
I had guilt flashbacks.
It's like she gave words to describe how I feel about myself.
Yep.
It was a really weird feeling. So advice, I don't know. I was asking you if there was any advice that you took from that, because I don't know how to take it. So go watch the video so that if you have some advice to take from that, send it.
I tell you what, there was if had I watched that years ago, had I watched that retrospectively now, there's advice I could have taken from it that would have been useful. When she was speaking about how that basically the whole her presentation is about the balance between the idiot and the badass.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
Yeah, that is the whole thing, the idiot and the badass.
Right. And that sometimes the idiot is an intentional part that the character plays in order to reveal their badassery. You know, it's like they put on a show of being elderly or weak or buffoon, just so that when someone challenges them, then they can come out and say, "Ha ha ha!" But I'm not really a cripple. And as in my past incarnation, I could have seen that as advice, because that is something I like to do that it evoked a negative reaction. You know?
Yeah, I think if you know what you're trying to get out of it, though, you would know that like if you didn't know what you were trying to get out of that, you know what I'm saying? Then it's not valuable.
Well, it's not that I didn't know; I knew, but I don't think it was a positive motivation. Let's say. So what I would do is I would present myself as a buffoon, only in order to bait someone into attacking me, so that then I could drop my brain on them, and then they're like, "Oh fuck!"
But it wasn't always your brain.
The F-bomb.
Ooh, how long did it take this time? We were actually doing really good, David. You ruined it. Like
I was
everything.
I was quoting someone off the interwebs.
14 minutes, bro.
I can hear kids using that as an excuse to their parents.
Damn.
Oh, you quoted someone off the interwebs.
Maybe the people listened long enough to the other passerbys was like, "Oh, that's boring. Now we're getting to the real stuff."
Okay, good. Okay.
Now these are the secrets.
It's all intentional.
I'm just kidding.
Take my advice.
So, so back to the taking the advice from the video.
Right.
I said that if you didn't know what you were trying to get from it, what I mean by that is like if you're invoking that, like if your only goal was to prove your dominance, you were basically just baiting people to beat them.
Yes.
You're just like come to my arena. Challenge me. Yes. Challenge me here.
That was one of the villainous aspects that she was describing, really.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and that made me think, ooh.
Hang on, guys. Okay. No, you guys, if you guys go watch the video and you guys interact with us on Facebook, let's choose Facebook. If you interact with us on Facebook about it, we'll do a live stream. We'll talk about more on that. We'll watch the video more on it. It's actually really cool, and she does a really good job of breaking down some things, and it made it digestible and understandable for simple folk like me.
Yeah. I'd love to have her on the show. Strictly.
Sorry.
Professional. You just got us fired.
Oh, Jesus. All right, so giving good advice. What does that mean? So you asked me what good advice was. Did you ever answer what good advice was? And you said it had to have...
Well, I laid out the basis of what I would start with for good advice, for giving good advice. You asked me, are you giving good advice, no?
Yeah.
Or what receiving good advice?
I don't remember.
Well, okay.
I took notes, but I turned the page.
Okay, nice.
How about this? I'm in this group. I just remembered this. I forget, before we talked about this whole episode. I didn't even think about this.
Nice.
Okay, so I'm in this group on Facebook. It's a group where we give terrible advice. That is the whole gamut. Like, you just go in, you give shit advice. That's the worst advice. But the thing is, I go in there and I give advice sometimes I actually got in real life. And it gets the most laugh reacts. I'm just like, Jesus Christ. I guess that would be a good filter to see if it's good or bad advice.
Okay. Aside from that laughable advice that you actually have received in life, when you set up one of your bad advice, when you're gonna give one of your bad advice,
and I interact a lot on here.
What's your process of scripting that? Like,
okay.
How do you figure out what to say as a bad advice?
All right. So first off, what will immediately solve the problem way more excessively than it needs to? What's the thing that comes to mind first? Okay. I have to identify simply, what is the simple problem? How do I solve this simple problem? Because to give bad advice, you have to take it and simplify it, right? So if you simplify it, so if you look at it, so if somebody's asking for bad advice about the relationship, they give a very specific thing about the relationship they're asking about advice, right? So if you break it down to just the simplest part, what are they trying to do? Are they trying to get somebody to stop doing something? Okay, what's the fastest way to stop somebody to do something? Okay, what's the most outrageous way to do that I can think of in 3 seconds? Boom, first thing that comes to mind, I write it out. Nice. Actually, no, I just fingers, type it out, text it out. And usually I just hit send. Sometimes I'll look at it like, that's dumb, and I'll just erase it, and then I'll just get off the page. If it's not impulsive, if I think about it too much, the advice becomes way too valuable.
So impulsive seems to be okay. So bad advice. So bad advice is not only impulsive, but it's oversimplifying the problem while solving it.
Oversolving, yeah. It's oversimplifying a problem and then oversolving it. But they don't meet. The two ends don't meet.
And that's why it's outrageous.
It's like the rope being untwined, unbraided, and then not actually ever going back together, but they're still part of the same rope.
Nice. Nice. Okay, well, the reason I asked you to tell me about how you formulate bad advice is, by logic, if you invert that should give you good advice, right? It doesn't always work that way, but let's try it. So impulsive. So instead of impulsive, it's well thought out, right? So it's contemplated, it's informed, it's
thoughtful. It's thoughtful.
Thoughtful, right. So thoughtful.
The more time that you give to that, the more, like I said, the more valuable the advice becomes. Mm-hmm. So if it's not impulsive for me, I start to think about it too much. That means it's starting to be good advice. You know,
too developed.
Well, yeah, no, listen, I'm an impulsive person. Like, that's just, I've realized in this moment and doing this right now here, that all of these things that I'm doing is to feed my impulsive side. This podcast, the recordings, all the shit we talk about, is to feed the impulsive side of me, so that way I get to be impulsive but controlled. I think in some ways that is what I'm trying to replicate, so that way I don't have to conform to everybody else's ways, so I can still be productive in society and still get to be me.
Nice.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to figure out, guys. So if you got some advice for me, I'm willing to take it.
Nice.
I was gonna pull up my phone and I was gonna go to the Facebook group and see what type of things need terrible advice, and maybe read some of the advices that have been given.
Sure.
Are you willing to do that, David, or is that something that you think that'll get too leggy?
Maybe we can have a look. See what
do you have something you want to talk about as I bring it up?
Well, we just going through what the actual shaping of an advice.
Yeah,
is.
keep going. Keep going
good
with
advice
that.
and bad advice. So, again, from your bad advice formulation, oversimplify and oversolve with disparity between the problem and the solution.
Well,
right?
I think you still have to simplify real advice, though. You have to simplify it, but you can't the oversimplification is where it becomes childish.
Well, when you oversimplify something, you detach too much relevance, right? You isolate from relevance.
Yes.
So, okay, so again...
that's a good way to describe it. You isolate it from relevance. Is that what we do?
Uh-oh. Maybe in some instances, just for entertainment value. Anyway, so then good advice, we have thoughtful, developed, relevance, and then the bad was oversolving. So the solution in a good, if we take the opposite of over, would be not under, but rather adequate or appropriate solution, right? Right, appropriate. Sorry, I'm writing down notes here as we speak. Appropriate, because we don't have a producer who types this and throws it up on the screen.
And I'm over here playing on my phone.
Nice. I can't see your other hand, so
it doesn't work.
Okay, good. That's a relief.
It's not hiding and being busy.
I just see the shadow keep waving back and forth. Optical illusion. Anyway, oversimplified. Okay, so solving. So it has to be appropriate level of solution.
Yes, it has to be appropriate.
Right.
So what makes it appropriate?
Well, again, you would only know that by knowing the circumstance, by having the background.
Yes.
By having not the situational. Yeah, without knowing the background and all the rest of that. So again, that was one of my first points. And if I'm going to give advice, I need to know the circumstance, the surrounding, the information, the data supporting or orbiting.
Right.
So
well, it seems as though that I'm not in those groups anymore because they've been shut. Some of them have been shut down. So,
been Facebooked.
Disregard on the bad advice. So I apologize for that build up.
I'm sure you can give some bad advice regardless.
Yeah, I thought it would be quickly accessible, so that way I could share other people's bad advice, just to give some examples of poorly thought out advice. But anyway, so yeah, bad advice. To answer questions in those groups, the easiest thing that I would say, and actually I would challenge any of you guys to go join those groups and test your feelings. Go out there and
test your feels.
Well, listen, that's essentially what it is. You're going out there and seeing what you can put up with. That's sometimes it gets too much. It really does. Some people get really twisted. I just have to move past those. But listen, whenever you can provide that exploding something would be good advice, it's always fun to hang out in those places and see what's being talked about.
That's probably why Facebook shut it down.
It started to get to be a lot of bickering, but one of the things I remember, this was very specific. There was a scooter that was bought. No. So somebody had posted in there that they had bought a scooter, and then their level of excitement from their friend, they bought them a scooter, but their friend was just like, oh, I don't want that. So then they were like on there bashing them. And so then there was like 30 different threads after that talking about the scooter or where the scooter came from, the original owner, like this whole backstory of these posts about asking advice on what they should do within this whole communal situation that's going on. It was hilarious. And I was interacting back and forth on a bunch of those, and it's just all about a scooter, man.
So when you talk a scooter, are you talking about like a
motorized scooter?
Not a drug addict.
No.
Okay. No. Isn't that what they call them?
I don't know. I've never heard it, but you know what? That might be a new driftwood word for a crackhead's a scooter.
Not a shuffler, a scooter.
A scooter. This is one of them scooters over there.
You
heard it here first, guys. Yeah, crackhead equals scooter. Yeah. That's Driftwood Podcast first.
Do you think we'll get some get that spread up in where is it? Oh, dang.
You're asking me to visualize what you're seeing in your mind.
Yeah. We know someone who runs.
Let me
a
give
podcast
you some advice. Let me give you some advice about that.
Yeah. I don't want to time directly to it, but
in the North Carolina area.
Yeah.
Okay, I know you're talking about.
Maybe we can get that going. Scooters. Call them
scooters, guys. Yeah. Hey, you heard it up there in the Burlington, North Carolina area. You know who you are. And if you're not listening to the podcast episode, man, fuck you guys.
Burlington scooters, go.
Yeah, you know who. No, the Burlington sock puppets. Go look that up. You'll know who we're talking about. Okay, so go through all that. You'll figure it out. So,
okay, yeah.
But anyways, yeah. So if they're not
back to bad advice.
Oh, and also we're in that group of these fellas that we interact with. That's who we're talking about. So one of the meme groups.
Hi guys.
They're based out of North Carolina.
Yep.
Yeah. So there's been some battles going on in there.
Awesome, wicked stuff. Love the hate.
Yeah. So advice. One of the things I remember even in school, man, like in high school, I was always giving advice to people. Like I felt like I knew how to solve their problems.
Oh yeah.
Like maybe that's just an egotistical way of me trying to be relevant. But I feel like I analyze their situation better than they do, and I can present them different things that may help them. That's what I felt like I always did really good. I was able to look at what they're doing and look at it with my brain and say, hey, cool, these are the things that stand out to me, so think about that. I didn't always present it that way, but that's essentially what I do now. But that only comes with the things that, like, I find relatable. Like, so there's some people that I chat with privately via Facebook Messenger and stuff like that. I'll see some posts on Facebook or something like that. I'll reach out to them just because, I feel like maybe I can have a positive influence. I'm not even trying to give advice. I'm just trying to give, like, some positive vibes, right? Because I can feel the negativity, and I don't like that shit coming across my face, man. So anytime I see something like this dispelling negative, if I can drop some positivity on it, I just go see what I can do, man. I try to get the poison out of the thorn or whatever I can do. So I'll just reach out to them and be like, hey, hope you're holding up all right, everything good. And usually, man, people are so caught off guard, they'll just be like, no, it's not. I'm like, oh shit, that was really honest to a stranger.
Yeah, right.
But the thing is, how many people around them do they feel like they just don't give a shit about them, that they can't even present that to them? I don't know. How do you give advice in that situation? It's tough because as an outsider looking in, you're just like, oh, dude, like it's all on you. But, dude, that's a heavy load to carry if you're not ready for it.
Well, the question is, what is your ethos in that? What's your power to deliver that advice? Sometimes hearing it from a stranger, that it's more objective than someone who is tied in close.
Well, I think I give different advice too, because I think people expect a certain thing to hear. Like they expect to hear a certain thing. But how many times does somebody ask you or I a question and we do not answer it with the way that they thought that was going to go? They just assumed we were going to have an answer the way that it was going to go, and it often does not go that way. And it's not because we're being assholes or anything like that. It's just like the way that I view shit. My first thoughts are my first thoughts. And so when I give advice, I usually try to think about, like, if some stranger were to be coming up to me, what are the things that maybe I wouldn't recognize? It was kind of weird. And I try to put those things at rest by basically like saying, hey, look, if you need anything, you can hit me up. I'm not trying to do any business, but man, they usually just open up.
Right.
It's just I don't even got to ask them. They were just waiting for somebody to ask them, to just say, hey, how you doing?
Right. So that you would say gives you your standing, simply the fact that you showed interest, that you showed empathy.
I saw, the empathy. I saw that they were troublesome, and I didn't get mad at them. I think usually when we post those responses, those things on Facebook and shit like that, we're expecting some level of pushback.
Sure.
Right?
Sure.
We're expecting we're ready to fight, right?
Sure, naturally.
So in our private message, I'm like, hey, you good? You doing okay? I'm not trying to even get in their business. Like, you doing okay? You got everything you need? You taken care of? How's everything going? What do you need? Is there anything I can help you with? And nah, man, usually it's like, and then it's like a relief because I don't talk to them every day. And then it's just like, boom, it'll build up again and I'll reach out to them again, man. I'll never stop. If I see it, I'll reach out. So if you guys are too afraid to reach out to me, that's cool, man. If I see it, I'll reach out too. And if I miss it, I'm sorry. But don't be afraid to reach out to me. I don't have good advice all the time, but sometimes, like we were talking about earlier, how like sometimes you said you were going to talk about thinking about how you present like the giving advice. What do you want me to do here? You giving them that option.
Right. Rather than telling them what you think is the best thing, presenting to them the options that they have.
Yeah, from an unbiased perspective.
Right. Obviously, from your perspective, that you see the options they have, and then let them figure it out from there. And if they want further guidance or input on one of the other options, then I'm sure they'll ask. And if they don't, well, then they don't.
Yeah, but how do you get to that point? That was the thing that we had come up to. How do you get to that point of presenting it to people?
Well, again, you need to have the background. You need to know. You need to have the data, and you need to have the empathy.
Well, yeah, but what about if you're going to, like, if I'm going to come up to you and I just say, hey, look, if you're telling me about a problem and I'm really confused on what you want me to do, and I'm just like, hey, man, look, I don't really know what to say to you right now, but are you just trying to tell me what the problem is, or like, are you expecting me to help you here? Like, do you need some advice, or are you just trying to give a soundboard, somebody to listen to you?
Well, yes, again, that is, yes, from our previous conversation earlier, that interaction where someone approaches you with a problem, as you're saying, what do? Do you simply listen, become a sounding board, or not a sounding board, become like a shoulder to cry on, an open ear, and yes, let them speak it out, be empathetic, but that may address the immediate issue of them feeling upset, but does that solve the problem that's caused the upset?
Yeah. Well, we don't know if you're too focused in on that specifically, right?
Right. So for me, a lot of times I'll let them have their little 5-10 minutes, whatever, and then say, okay, all right, let's put that aside for now. Let's look at what the actual issue is.
You actually have to get down to the nuts and bolts, or it'll never be resolved, or you're just whining about it.
Yes.
Seriously, I'm not trying to be an ass. You're just whining about it if you're not doing anything about it. If you're bitching about having a problem and you're not doing anything to help resolve it, you're just bitching. That's all you're doing. That is not productive. That's good advice. That's good fucking sound advice right there. Take that one to the bank.
In relation to this, I just remembered, now that I'm living back where I'm living many, many years ago.
You went back in time? What the fuck?
I know, this is one of the
We dropped the cuss word at 14, bro. It's open gates now.
I know. It's one of the first times I've actually returned to a place again. Anyway, or returned to a place that was good.
So your rope has a loop now.
I know, it's great. So advice I was giving someone, and they were first starting to experience a little bit of cognitive dissonance as far as the world they had been perceiving to be reality, they were now seeing chinks and chips and cracks in, and they were starting to discover that there were such things as rabbit holes, that there was, unspoken things, hidden truths, underlying mechanics to the world, to politics and all the rest of it. And they were getting into, this person on YouTube and they were starting to learn and follow these people and blah, blah, blah. And the advice I gave them is, that's great. There are a lot of rabbit holes, and a lot of them go on forever. Wherever you go exploring, have fun, but don't trust someone who professes to have all the answers. It's always a liar. Always.
Everyone that has all of the answers is lying.
And the reason I bring that up, or the reason
Except
that came
for us,
to mind,
of course,
naturally, without needing
That's not
to
even
be
without
said.
question. That was obvious. Why did I bring it up? I'm sorry.
Please don't. So the relevance of that is that I was saying don't trust someone who claims to have all the answers. But likewise, I don't trust someone's advice who, when I ask them or I say to them, this is my problem, and they immediately give an answer. I don't trust it, because you haven't validated what I've said in your own mind. You haven't qualified it in your own mind, but you have the answer. You know.
42.
Okay, nice.
That's the answer.
Yes.
That's the answer to life.
Well, yeah, okay, so I guess you can have some confidence in that.
Jackie Robinson, MRFers. Anyways, speaking of Jackie Robinson.
Did I lose you on that?
No, you didn't lose me. I was
Okay.
fully on board with that.
Okay.
Did you want to dive further into that?
No.
Okay, I felt like it aired out enough.
No, I thought you might have something to say about it,
think I'm always supposed to have an opinion or something?
Oh, no, wait, I tell you your opinions? Is that the rumor?
Remember, I always ask you, how am I supposed to feel about this?
It's more than a rumor, I guess.
No, I'm sorry. I got caught up on the answer to life.
Yes.
Yeah, so
as James says, yes.
Yes, So 42, Jackie Robinson. Anyways, yeah.
Terry Pratchett?
Terry Pratchett. Who's Terry Pratchett?
No mind.
Sorry. Wait, I know who Terry Pratchett is. Anyways, moving on. Look, that's the problem with... That's the problem. Okay, so Jackie Robinson, 42. Okay, so sports. I use sports to give advice a lot.
Right.
I use sports as a median to, like, judge, to, like, be... So whenever I'm thinking about, like, giving advice, if somebody... if they understand sports in any way, and I can use sports as that vehicle... Man, that's like one of those things. The rules are very defined, and you can test their level of understanding about the sport to what level and in depth you can describe the situation.
Upcoming titles you can expect by Driftwood. Sports ball and its many mysteries.
Actually, that might be a really good episode, man. Write that one down. Sports balls and its many mysteries. Sports ball and its many mysteries.
Yes, sir. You heard it here first. Sports ball has all the answers. You just have to look deep enough.
Yeah. I don't even know how to spell mysteries. I'm getting
with a Y.
Yeah, there's a
like
lot
Driftwood.
of there's some Y's, some I's, some G's, some I don't know, man.
Like Driftwood, buy us a coffee.
It looks like it says misogynist.
Maybe. Sports
and it also looks like
it
also looks like it says Malaysia.
Oh, speaking of sports ball misogyny, so the US female soccer star who claimed to be underpaid was actually lying. Apparently, she got loads of dough, loads of money.
Ooh.
And now I feel really bad because I didn't read the article properly, so I've got no further details.
Yeah, so
I'm just trying to antagonize.
Here's the thing. Virtue signaling. That's bad advice. Don't ever do that. Look,
yeah, no.
Anybody that says that, hey, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong about that. I don't know. Don't listen to me. I don't know shit.
Okay. Here's the thing. Hey, Daniel, my very good friend, I need some advice. I'm thinking of virtue signaling.
Totally do it and record it and put it on the internet so everyone else knows that you care about that.
Do I actually tell them that's what I'm doing, or do I just do it?
No. You have to keep that part a secret. You just do it. Like you're just like, I care so much about this that this is how it relates to me, so that all of you know that this matters to me.
So, but the point is not that; it's just to signal, right?
What's the point?
Of the signaling. Anyway, before we get stranded on some asteroid there in some remote orbit.
I had people block me on Facebook because I called out virtue signaling.
I know.
And I got blocked.
People get really upset about it.
Yeah, listen, I'm not, like, the people that are doing it, I'm not being mad at people for posting about the good shit that's happening in their life. No, like, that's cool. Go post about that shit.
No, that's cool and everything. But listen, someone actually fairly recently actually got offended by me saying that someone else was virtue signaling. And to them, it wasn't really that they were or were not doing it. It was the concept of someone doing that. It's like, no.
They would never.
No, that's not something people do.
But when you break down what it is, that's exactly what they do.
Well, yeah.
All of them.
Yeah.
Actually, listen, I want to be very clear about this. There's no clear line that decides whether you're virtue signaling or not. But if you're trying to do it for clout, for your own good feelings...
So, hey, since we just broke orbit from misogyny, let's just hang a little closer. Do you think opening doors, is that virtue signaling?
Ooh. Now we're on to the real things.
What advice would you give to a young man who wants to be a decent member of society, a decent man, a decent representative of what a modern male? Oh God, I'm gonna throw up. I said it. A decent. oh, here it comes. Sorry if you're listening.
I don't shave my legs or anything. But
anyway, Dollar Shave.
I'm pretty progressive.
Anyway, we're not sponsored. Anyway.
Actually, we got reached out to one of those grooming things on Instagram.
Oh, no, I said the wrong thing, right?
Yeah. Okay. Well, it doesn't matter because there's been no further interaction.
Okay.
But yeah, they reached out to us.
That's what it could sound like.
Yeah.
Disastrous, I know. Anyway,
we do live reads, guys. Oh, also, if you want to do, me and David just discussed this. I'm going to drop this in right here. If you want to do a live stream with us, reach out to us. We'll do a live stream with you, probably. If you have something relevant to talk about and to promote, hey, we'll pop off and do a live stream. You can do it from your phone. So let us know. Email us.
Okay.
Yeah, not for you, for the listeners, not you. I'm not talking
me.
to you.
Okay, I'll ignore you then.
You knew this. We talked about this, and I just kind of pulled the trigger on it. But anyways, moving on.
Can you bring us back?
back it up?
Back in? Can you
Well,
bring us
you
back
were
up?
asking about, do you give the sound advice for, what advice would you give for a young lad trying to hold a door for somebody?
Well, yeah, what would you say to him? Is that a good thing to do? Is that not a good thing to do?
Shit, man, I'm going to be real honest with you. I'm going to go on the side of, yeah, do it. I think it doesn't matter who it is, though. I think if you hold the door for anyone, hold it for everyone. Right. Don't just hold it for pretty women or old ladies or men. Or don't just hold it for specific people. Hold it for everyone.
Don't just hold it for women who you want to check out after they walk past you.
Yeah, check out the old ladies too.
Apparently that nice. And apparently,
hang on. Now I got a question.
Hang on now.
This
you need some advice?
No, I don't need.
You've come to the right place.
Maybe. So some of these people that claim that these are things that are happening to them. In my fucking mind, I can't imagine a scenario where that would have happened. And maybe I'm just really
Wait, what
naive.
happened?
No, like these people that are like claiming that the door was held open for them.
They claimed it was held open for them?
No. And somebody was doing it to check them out.
Oh, they were claiming it was so someone could check them out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but listen, I'm not trying to be...
I'll tell you what, there may be something to this though, because I found myself doing it the other day. But, have to just explain. I wasn't checking anyone out, but I did hold the door open for someone, and then for some reason I was in my head at the time, and I was kind of thinking about stuff, and then I realized that I looked at them in the face as I held it open, and they walked past me. I made eye contact, acknowledged them, they acknowledged me, and then as they walked past me, my eyes did, for some reason, automatically go from their head down to where their feet were, and that made me stop and think, why did I do that? And I'll tell you why. I figured at that point in time is because I was actually in a hurry and I was waiting to see when their feet would clear the door. and I think when you let someone in front of you, that's what you're doing too. You're seeing where their feet are so that you can proceed after them. You're not, and maybe yes, that could be viewed as, oh, he's checking them out.
But why does it always have to be sexual? It may not even be sexual. You may just be trying to see where the ass of the animal in front of you is moving to, so you can move fucking too.
Yes, definitely got to check that out so you don't cause a pile up. That would be even more assaulting.
That would, oh yeah, run up bumper, bro. Oh no.
Howdy.
How you doing?
That is a rabbit in my pocket.
My apologies. I refused to look at your ass, therefore I ran into it.
Yeah. So I couldn't look at your ass.
See, terrible advice. Nice. See, that's terrible advice right there.
Don't look at people's asses.
Don't look at people's ass, and so instead of looking into their ass, just
that's
run.
Bad advice?
No, just directly run right into them.
Okay.
Because you can't look at their ass. So that's an excuse.
Yeah.
All right, that's bad advice.
That is bad advice.
So you can't look at people's ass. How do you have an excuse to look at somebody's ass? Well, you just keep rumrodding into people from behind until they're like, okay, it's socially acceptable to look, so you can see where you're going.
You know, we keep talking about this little button or something, like we've got to have like this bullshit button or something. I think what we need is a button that says something along the lines of Driftwood cannot be held responsible for legal fees.
Yeah,
something.
Listen, guys, and if you come to us looking for money, you're looking the wrong way, man. Like if we have a mic go down, we're gonna have to share a mic type thing to record an episode, right? So
I celebrate shower days. Yeah,
listen, when it only rain. Listen, good thing springtime is upon us because this is when I get the cleanest. Okay, this is when I get the most showers. Summertime's gonna come. It's gonna get real wretched.
Be awful.
And then at the end of summer, I'll finally get to take my bath.
Yep.
I'll take my bath.
Winter's coming. Winter's coming. Better take a bath.
Yeah, I gotta dust off the coat. Right?
Don't want to be greasy all winter.
Gotta dust off the coat. Get prepared for hibernation. Yeah.
Knock the ticks out. Don't want them feeding on you all winter.
Yeah, you don't want them stealing nutrients.
Yeah.
Anyways, that's the process to how you hibernate as the wizard.
That's my protein. Little suckers. Anyway.
Yeah, back onto the advice and all of that good jazz.
Yes.
So. With giving bad advice and giving good advice, I think you have to detail it anyway. So to wrap it back around to that in the beginning, and we were talking about holding the door open, but I actually wrote down another question. Do you say sir and ma'am to people?
It's ma'am.
It's sir.
I don't know. Do you say bois to people?
The fuck does that mean?
Bois. Boy.
Actually, I might say some shit like that. Actually, I call my children boy and girl all the time.
Okay.
Come here, boy.
Like dog.
I have a bunch of them, man. I forget their fucking names.
You should tattoo it on their
I
foreheads.
don't forget
so
their
you don't
names.
forget.
I just forget which name in the Rolodex it is.
See, that was bad advice. You should tattoo their names on their foreheads so you don't forget.
That's not bad advice. That's actually really good advice. Yeah. Society wouldn't accept it, though. That would be good advice for me to accomplish what I'm trying to accomplish.
Preteen facial tattoos not acceptable in society.
It just has the number of the child. That's it.
No names.
1, 2, 3. Yeah, yes, no names. Just periods. Nice. 1 period, 2 period, 3 period. Like there's going to be a presentation afterwards.
They could look like superheroes. It could be like dice. You could put little dice on their foreheads. It gets difficult up to after 6 because then you have to have 2 dice.
I only have 6 kids, so look.
That's fine. It works out perfectly.
Listen. Oh yeah, Mother's Day. This is releasing on Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day to everyone.
Happy Mother's Day.
Yeah, happy
to the
Mother's
mothers
Day.
who are happy.
Yeah, and if you're listening to this after Mother's Day,
you missed it.
Happy Mother's Day. Happy belated Mother's Day. Even if you're not a mother, happy Mother's Day. You had a mother, maybe, unless you were born in a vat in a
clone
science fair project.
Clone.
Born in a closet. A clone? Why does it got to be a clone, man? Why can't something just be made up? Why does it got to be a replication of something?
Everything's made up.
But nothing is made up.
That's the reality of it.
Yeah, everything is made up, but also nothing is made up. Because nothing is real.
Nothing is real.
So that's why everything is made up, but also not made up because it's not real.
It can't be made up because it doesn't exist.
So whose brain are we in today? Is it yours or mine? Who's imagining the situation?
Oh dear.
Yeah, what's the setting? If we were to do a cartoon or something, whose brain are we in today?
I don't know, man. I think we're always in that thinking and brain zone.
I think we're a little bit more in your brain today.
Is that right?
Yeah, but also I have a lot of questions about advice.
Please, fire away.
Okay, so with advice, whenever you give what you think to be good advice, but it's like dangerous good advice. Like,
dangerously good?
Yeah, like the risk of if they take it the wrong way, it could be damaging and
like
bad.
When she was good, but when she was bad, she was
real bad.
Yeah.
Real bad.
Yeah,
so how do you give someone advice that's like fragile, I guess, like that it could be bad, and like if they mistake what you say, it could be very, very misrepresented and used poorly.
I think that is the responsibility of the advice giver to assess that. It's like you don't give a baby a hand grenade or a 9mm or whatever.
Oh shit! What?
You know?
Why?
Generally speaking, unless a pin's already been pulled, and you know it's definitely going to go off when handed over.
I see how you feel about babies.
They're not all bad.
But they're not all good either.
You can't say that about people anymore. They're not all bad.
They're not all bad.
That means you're an ist. Apparently that's how it works. That phrase is attached to being an ist.
Oh, am I an ist? Are you an ist?
I think we're all ists in some regard. We just need to learn it, and so we can exterminate all the ists.
Is that one of those words like yeet? Does it mean something other than what I think it means?
Maybe.
Moving on.
Yes.
So advice. So you said you have to...
Tenuous advice, right. Okay, so yeah, the advice has to be appropriate to the person to a level that is appropriate to them to use. It's like, basically with advice, what you're doing with advice is in a metaphorical way. Metaphysical meaning like, intangible, spiritual, mental way. And metaphorical meaning like descriptive. So what you're doing is you're handing them a tool and saying, here, you want to fix your roof? Here's a hammer. This will help you fix your roof. That's essentially what you're doing. The person you give the hammer to can choose to use it. They can choose not to use it. That's up to them. However, if they don't know how to use that hammer, they may wreck their roof. So again, do you hand them a hammer simply and say, here, this is a hammer. I mean, I don't know anything about it. I mean, I won't tell you, just
toss them a hammer and say, hey, here you go. Yeah. Here's your hammer. What the fuck am I supposed to do with this?
Right.
Oh, there's a window. Smash! Crack.
Right. So that's what I mean about the level of the advice appropriate to the person.
So I'm not going to give my 3-year-old a hammer and a pane of glass and just leave him alone with it.
You can.
No.
You're not.
That would be bad.
I guess.
Depends
what the result is you want.
well, yeah. What are you hoping for? I guess. Yeah. I mean, if you're hoping that hammer goes through that glass, you can almost bet that it will.
All right, let me check I've got some dollars.
That will certainly happen. Yeah. So it's about what is relevant to them, what will help them. So I think that's where bad advice starts to happen, is where you over advise what the situation is. Like you give them more than what they're needing there. You're dumping a dump truck of load of stuff on them when all they need is a handful of dirt.
Maybe. And sometimes I think what I find myself doing is my advice is often aimed more long-term, long view. However, where that falls down is that some of the people in the past, especially, I've realized is the people I've given that advice or given such advice to, long-range advice, they don't know the steps, or they don't understand the steps and how to get there. They don't have that long-range vision, and therefore that was my mistake. I should have given more immediate advice, more short-range advice, and then you, as you said, you have to go back and see, was it valid? Did it work for them? Was that good advice? Certify for yourself, qualify for yourself. Was that good advice?
Right. Yeah. No. And you, if it applies to what you're trying to do, and you're able to, even if it doesn't happen the way that you want, that doesn't mean it was bad advice, because now you know that outcome as well. Right. So it's just all information regardless. So the thing is, people giving advice, they're just trying to give you information, right?
Sure.
Unwarranted advice or unsolicited advice, sure, it gets fucking annoying, man, but there's a part of me that wants to think it's because they care, but I think in all reality it's because they want to be important.
Sure,
I think people want to be important, so therefore they find ways to be important.
Well, it's like back to the roofing thing, back to doing your roof. So you're doing your roof, you're sweating away. It's only 10 o'clock, but it's Texas, so you're sweating away. Because you should have started earlier. But anyway, let's not get into that. That's more advice. And along comes a guy and he says, "Hey, here's a staple gun," and you're like, "Okay, oh right. Well, thanks for that."
What the fuck is this for?
So that is a bit of useless advice. That is irrelevant, useless, weak advice.
It doesn't fit the situation. It serves no purpose there.
Okay, but here I've got another scenario for you on the tool thing, since I'm sure we got some tool heads. So here's someone you actually know which tool you need for doing your roof, and you go to your associate, friend, whatever, acquaintance, and you say, "Hey, this is what I'm looking for," and they say, "Well, I've got this nail gun. It's kind of old, and I haven't run it recently. I don't know really whether it's any good, and but here, if you want it, you can use it." And you're thinking to yourself, what are you doing? You're trying to give me your trash? You're not sure about it? You're trying to give me something you're not even sure about?
It's like, here's some information that might be useful, but fuck, I found no use for it. Here you go.
Right.
I don't know. That's not.
Where's the confidence?
Yeah, I wouldn't take that advice.
No, I wouldn't
All
take
right,
it.
so we can push a little bit along. Laptop's about to die, so we're gonna push forward a little bit. So, the thing about advice that I want to really to get out is that I put a lot of effort into giving the advice that I give. I really try to consider as many angles as I can.
Yes,
I really want to give advice that's valuable because I put a lot of time into giving people my thoughts. And if you're interested in getting my thoughts or David's thoughts or any of that stuff, reach out to us at the driftwoodpodcast@gmail.com. Listen, we're looking for ways to make an impact.
That strikes me just now. The advice we try to give is more path finding. We try to find a way through.
We help.
We don't just point. We don't just point and say it's over there.
Yeah, we just guide them along until they get to a point to where we don't have to guide them along anymore.
And they find their own way. Yes, sir.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's to wrap up the advice thing. I think the biggest thing for advice for me is that I put a lot of effort into it. I even the bad advice. I practice giving bad advice so that I understand, all aspects of advice. I practice giving advice so that I can give better advice.
If you're going to do it well.
I mean, that's part of what the podcast is. We practice giving advice. We try to talk about these things that maybe are things that people don't talk about all the time, but man, they need to air out a little bit.
Sure.
So I'm going to get into the reading by Yul Vasquez again. Yul Vasquez is he was a Cuban-American musician, actor, and I wrote down a lot of the things that he did. So here's the things that he did, just so that you guys know.
He did
Gil
stuff.
Vasquez, Cuban-American actor. He did Bad Boys 2, Runaway Bride. He was on the A-Team. So he's a pretty significant guy. So here's the quote. The universe will put signposts in your life. You can either ignore them or embrace them. You can choose and wish for all the things you want, but the things that are coming to you, you will never be able to hide from. And the things that you want so bad that are not supposed to be for you for whatever reason, they'll never come to you. Listen, that's if
bad boys.
Well, hang on. The universe is going to give you what the universe is going to give you.
Yes.
And it is up to you to do with those things what you can.
Mm-hmm.
It is up to you. And don't long and lust after what other people want. Want what you want, and for the reasons that you want it. Right? Don't let somebody else tell you you should want this or you should want that. Spend the time, learn what you want.
Right.
You know, find your identity. Find your identity. Stop living somebody else's life or what somebody else told you should do, man. If you have that desire, explore it. You may not have to pursue it full time, but shit, go see what it feels like. You know, go see what it tastes like, smells like, all that stuff, right? You can take that out of context all you want, but
all day long.
The advice that I can give someone is to just live your life. Live your life for the moments of recognizing that you're alive. Because those moments where you feel something that you've never felt before, those moments of exhilaration are worth living for. So the advice that I can give you is to go out and live. Go live some life. Go do something.
Be alive.
Be alive, yeah. And also talk about tits.
Sure.
Thoughts, ideas, theories, and stories. Of course, you perverts.
It won't hurt. It won't hurt.
Yeah. So, do you got anything? You got anything else for them before we close?
Do we want to mention?
Yeah, I'm gonna bring up the buy me a coffee and all that stuff. Do you got anything else for them before we close out of that?
I think one thing I wanted to bring up was a wise person draws wise counsel. So, if you want good advice, get good advice from the people who give good advice. I know that sounds silly, but
I don't know. I think it's one of those things that once you get in the circle, you figure out how to be in the circle. It's just getting in the circle is tough. So, check us out on buymeacoffee.com/driftwood, DRYFTWOD. That'll be where you can find our exclusive content, all the things there. We only have one tier right now for $3 or $5 a month. So check it out there. We'll have some exclusives on there. So, yeah, and then also you can check us out on Facebook, Instagram, all the social medias. Did you have something else, David?
No, we're good.
All right, guys. So also please don't forget to comment and rate this podcast. And if you listen to iTunes or wherever you listen to, it helps get us found. And share it with somebody. That's the biggest thing you can do to help is just share it with somebody. Subscribe so that when we release new episodes every Sunday, you'll be the first one to get it so you don't miss out. Love you guys. You guys have a good day. Appreciate you listening, and enjoy the rest of your Mother's Day if it's Mother's Day.